My birthday. My best friend gifted me an orange tabby in the middle of the night. The cat actually looked at me, shook its head, and let out a heavy sigh. She looks pretty, but how can someone be so clueless? Her best friend and boyfriend are literally stabbing her in the back. And she has no idea? I thought my ears were playing tricks on me. I was just pulling my resignation letter out of my drawer, planning to quit my job with my best friend and go travel. He's busy resigning, while Vivian is busy plotting to steal her promotion and become the general manager. Honestly, her boyfriend's scheme is absolutely toxic. What a shame. The other neighborhood cat said, "This company is about to secure a $10 billion funding round. The future is gold." The cat's inner voice echoed in my head. My pen froze. I ripped the resignation letter to shreds. I barely threw the scraps into the trash before my best friend, Vivian, texted me, "Hey, Naomi, let's set our final day for next Monday." She even attached a photo of her own signed resignation form. Right after my boyfriend, Greg, texted, "Did you fill out the resignation form yet?" I stared at the screen, my mind blank. I couldn't wrap my head around the betrayal. We grew up together. Vivian had always followed me around like a shadow. I treated her like a real sister. When she couldn't find a job, I brought her into my firm, mentored her step by step, and even handed her my own clients. She used to shower me with public thank yous. And Greg, he had been shouting that he'd marry me since we were kids. He confessed his feelings when we were 18, and we've been together ever since. Nearly 7 years. That designer bag Greg got her for her birthday, it's actually Vivian's hand-me-down. There's a mark on the inside. He's been infatuated with Vivian since childhood. The orange cat's inner voice sounded again. I rushed to the closet, pulled out the leather purse, and inspected it under the light. Sure enough, etched into the bottom lining were 3 faint scratch letters. V.W. Vivian Wright, her initials. In that instant, the last thread of hope snapped. The love and friendship I had cherished so deeply were nothing but hollow, cheap illusions. But hey, there's a $3 million lottery ticket hidden inside that bag. Serial number. I whipped my head around. The orange cat hopped onto the windowsill, licked its paw, and muttered to itself. The big white person at the pet shop said, "The brand is running a serial number sweepstakes. The winning number matches this exact bag." Greg didn't leave his phone number at the store. There are only 3 days left to claim it. I shook off my shock, scrolled frantically through my chat history with Greg, and found the address of the boutique. I'd claim it right after work. Tomorrow. Previously, Greg had suggested I pay the $1 million down payment on a house, and he'd handle the monthly mortgage. Now I didn't need him. I could buy the whole damn place in cash. Suddenly my phone buzzed. Greg's contact photo lit up. "Hey, Naomi, you asleep? Why aren't you replying to me?" And Viv, "Did you finish the resignation letter?" Viv says, "Hawaii is incredible. I already booked the tickets for next week. You can't back out now." Everything was always about Vivian. He used to explain it away by saying, "We're a couple. Naomi, Viv is all on her own. We should look out for her and let her have her way." Sometimes I had trusted them blindly. I just finished it. I was in the shower. "Elite smoothly. Awesome. We're finally going to make our childhood dream of traveling the world come true." He chuckled. "Get some sleep. Love you forever, babe." His voice was as sweet and gentle as ever, like he was soothing a child. In the past, those late-night sweet nothings would have warmed my heart. Now they made bile rise in my throat. From this moment on, I wouldn't waste a single second of my life on decayed love or rotten friendship. Next morning, I arrived at the office parking lot half an hour early. As soon as I parked, I spotted 2 familiar figures. Greg was leaning down, kissing Vivian's forehead. "You worked hard last night, beautiful," he murmured, his voice dripping with affection. "Oh, please. I work hard every night," Vivian giggled, swatting his chest. "You're like a wild animal, always trying to devour me." My hands clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. They were sleeping together every single night. "By the way," Vivian asked, leaning against him, "is it really okay to trick Naomi into quitting?" "Hey, it's a dog-eat-dog world." Greg smirked, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Besides, Naomi is tough. She'll find another job in no time. She's too sentimental to hold a grudge against you. Anyway, once we get married, I'll use her money to pamper you." Chills ran down my spine. This was the man who promised to love me forever. He was more venomous than a viper. Thank God for my telepathic tabby. It wasn't too late. I didn't storm out to confront them. Instead, I quietly recorded a video on my phone, waited in my car for another 10 minutes, and then headed up to the office. Naomi Vivian was waiting right by my desk, a beaming smile on her face. She grabbed my arm. "Let's go hand in our resignations to the boss." I didn't resist. I was going to play my part in this little theater. At Mr. Henderson's office door, Vivian slapped her forehead. Oh, shoot, Naomi. I think I left my resignation letter at my desk. Go on in first. I'll go grab it. Sure, I said with a nod. As I walked in, I heard her let out a quiet sigh of relief. She thought her little trap had sprung perfectly. Mr. Henderson welcomed me warmly. I heard a rumor you were thinking of leaving us. Naomi, don't tell me this is a resignation letter. So Vivian had already started spreading rumors. To pave her way to the top. Of course not, I replied, shaking my head. I handed him a sleek leather folder. Inside was not a resignation, but a groundbreaking marketing proposal for our upcoming product launch. Mr. Henderson read through it, nodding with growing enthusiasm. This is brilliant, Naomi. Absolutely brilliant. Run with it all. Also, the marketing director position has been vacant. The board just finalized the decision to promote you. The official announcement goes out next Monday. If this campaign blows up, the final executive VP slot is yours, along with company shares. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I won't let you down, I said, my heart racing. Leaving his office, I felt a wave of adrenaline mixed with sheer relief. If it weren't for my cat, I would have thrown my career down the drain. Vivian and Greg would have laughed behind my back while stepping all over me. I returned to my office. Vivian used the excuse of delivering files to slip inside. So, Naomi, what did Mr. Henderson say? Not much, I said, keeping my face neutral. Wow. He didn't even try to keep you. Vivian pouted, but her eyes danced with triumph. I let her enjoy her little fantasy. That evening, Greg was waiting in the parking lot. Vivian naturally slid into the passenger seat, casually resting her legs on the dashboard, showing off her thighs without a care in the world. In the past, I thought it was just childhood friend comfort. I noticed Greg's eyes constantly darting to her legs with pure lust. Naomi. Greg smiled, turning back to me. Bib says there's a new hot pot place down the street. I sent you the address. Let's go. You guys go ahead. I have things to do. I replied coldly. Greg blinked, surprised. Come on, whatever it is can wait. Dinner with Bib is a priority. Yeah, Naomi. If you don't come, you're not a real friend. Vivian whined. In the past, I would have given in. Now it just felt like cheap emotional blackmail. No thanks. Family emergency. I didn't care about their reactions. I got into my car and drove straight to the luxury boutique. Hello. Could you please check if this serial number has won the sweepstakes? The clerk took the bag, ran the number, and beamed. Congratulations, ma'am. You've won the grand prize of $3 million. Please step this way. In less than a minute, the paperwork was done. A text notification buzzed on my phone. $2.7 million had cleared into my account after taxes. When the store would display a promotional banner next week, I knew Greg and Vivian would find out soon. I immediately called a real estate agent and bought the luxury riverfront penthouse I've been eyeing for months, paid in full. After securing the deed, I went home and sat down with my parents. When they heard about the betrayal, they were shocked but stood firmly by my side, urging me to handle it my way. Just as we finished dinner, my phone buzzed. Greg and Vivian had added me to a group chat. Vivian sent a playful voice note. Naomi, since you ditched us for dinner, you're paying the bill. Greg followed up immediately. It's not much, just $3,888. Just Venmo it to me. Normally, I would have paid to keep the peace. This time I ignored it and went to take a shower. By the time I got out, the group chat had over 99 unread messages. Vivian, Naomi, why aren't you answering? Greg, it's been 10 minutes. The waiter is waiting. Vivian, wow. I guess our friendship doesn't mean much to you anymore. Greg, seriously, Naomi, you're being so petty. Whatever. We'll pay it ourselves. Only then did I reply. Just got out of the shower. Nobody replied. In the past, I would have sent them each $1,000 digital red envelope. To make up for it, what an idiot I had been. I gave my cat some freeze-dried treats and sat down on my laptop. I needed to perfect the marketing plan for Monday's pitch. The orange cat hopped onto the desk, staring at the screen. The office cats say the big boss loves pets, but tries to act all tough and professional. He's been wishing someone would pitch a pet-themed marketing campaign. A spark of inspiration hit me. I immediately rewrote the strategy, weaving in a brilliant pet-friendly angle. I worked through the night. Just as dawn broke, Greg called Naomi. You were way out of line yesterday. Ditching the bill, like that really hurt Viv. She actually cried. I heard she wanted a designer necklace at the mall. Why don't you buy it for her to make peace? I almost laughed out loud. He really was taking the spend Naomi's money to pamper Vivian rule to heart. It's for the sake of our group, Greg continued. Just pay for it. Viv will be happy, and I won't be mad at you anymore. If I were still blind, I would have felt guilty, but now I just felt disgust. I worked all night, and I'm exhausted. I said flatly, go check it out yourself. Great, Greg chirped, assuming I was agreeing to pay, and hung up. Vivian immediately texted Naomi, "You're the absolute best. I'm not mad at you anymore. Love you. XOXO. I ignored it and fell asleep. When I woke up in the evening, my screen was filled with more texts. "Vivian, I found a better one. It's $188,000. Buy this one for me instead. Greg, since you didn't say no, we'll assume it's a yes. Viv put it on an installment plan. You can just go pay it off next week. Vivian, no interest if paid within a month. Don't forget Naomi." She even posted a photo of the necklace on her Instagram, naturally omitting who paid for it. The comments were flooded with jealousy. When someone asked if she got a massive raise, she replied, "Oh, it's nothing major." Greg commented, "My girl is the best cheek of it. I only wore a $1,000 necklace." And Vivian casually swiped my imaginary credit card for a $188K piece. But I didn't say a word. I wanted to see how Vivian, who lived paycheck to paycheck, would handle the bill when I refused to pay. Monday morning arrived. Vivian walked into the office, wearing the glittering $188,000 diamond necklace. She deliberately raised her voice, so everyone could hear. "Naomi, do you like it? It's beautiful." I smiled. The other colleagues crowded around. "Oh, my God, Vivian. How much was that?" "Just $188,000. Vivian smirked, secretly squeezing my hand, signaling me to keep quiet and play along. "Wow. $188,000. Vivian, I had no idea you were so loaded. I wish I had your talent. Naomi, look at your friend and look at you. She's really outshining you now." "Exactly. Naomi brought her into the company, but Vivian is the one wearing a house on her neck. Naomi has nothing." They gossiped and compared us. Vivian didn't defend me. She just bathed in the praise. I simply smiled. "All right, quiet down everyone." Mr. Henderson walked into the department. "I am here to announce the new marketing director." Vivian's grin widened, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. She was practically vibrating. The colleagues all looked at her expecting her name to be called. Since the rumor of my resignation was widespread, Mr. Henderson turned to me. "Effective today, Naomi Stone is our new marketing director." Vivian's smile instantly shattered. She whipped her head toward me, her eyes wide with absolute shock. "Director?" Vivian's voice was barely a whisper, thin and cracking at the edges. "But, Mr. Henderson, there must be some mistake. I thought Naomi was." She bit her lip, catching herself before she could mention the resignation letter. If she admitted she knew I was planning to quit, she would have to explain how she knew and why she had been actively celebrating it. "Mr. Henderson raised an eyebrow, his professional smile tightening slightly. "A mistake, Vivian? I assure you, the board doesn't make mistakes when it comes to leadership." Naomi's marketing proposal was exemplary. "It's exactly the direction this company needs as we prepare for our next phase of growth." He turned his warm gaze back to me, offering a firm handshake. "Again, congratulations, Naomi. My assistant will help you coordinate the move to your new office on the executive floor this afternoon." "Thank you, Mr. Henderson," I said, keeping my voice level, polite, and entirely devoid of the trembling satisfaction blooming in my chest. "I won't let you down." As Mr. Henderson walked away, the silence broke. A few of the colleagues who had been whispering sneers behind my back only minutes ago suddenly shifted their postures. "Wow, Naomi, director. I always knew you had it in you." "Yeah, that's incredible. You'll have to buy us all lunch to celebrate." I offered them a polite, standard corporate smile. I didn't look at them. My focus was entirely on Vivian. She was still frozen, her hand hovering near her collarbone, staring at me as if I had suddenly grown a second head. "Naomi," she breathed, stepping closer and grabbing my wrist. Her grip was tight, desperate. "We need to talk. Now." "In the break room?" "Sure," I said softly, pulling my wrist back with a slow, deliberate motion. "Let me just save my files first." When I walked into the break room, Vivian was pacing back and forth, her heels clicking frantically against the linoleum. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, she spun around, her eyes wide and frantic. "What is the meaning of this, Naomi?" she demanded, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "You lied to me. You told me you wrote your resignation letter. We were supposed to submit them together today. We were supposed to go to Hawaii next week." "I did write it," I replied, leaning calmly against the counter. "But then I thought about it. Why should I throw away a career I've spent years building? Especially when the company is on the verge of something massive." Vivian's breath hitched. "What do you mean, something massive?" "Just a feeling," I said, offering a small, enigmatic shrug. "Besides, Vivian, isn't this a good thing? I'm the director now. I can keep mentoring you. You've always said you loved working under me." "Under you?" The words slipped out of her mouth before she could filter them, laced with a bitter, venomous resentment. Her face contorted for a split second before she quickly forced her mask of innocent friendship back on. She took a deep breath, stepping closer, her eyes glittering with tears that she could summon at will. No, Naomi, you don't understand. Greg and we planned everything. The tickets to Hawaii are booked. We were going to travel the world. How could you just change your mind without telling me? It's like you don't even care about our friendship anymore. I care about my future, Vivian, I said, looking her straight in the eyes. Just like you care about yours. She flinched slightly under my gaze, perhaps sensing a coldness in me that she had never encountered before. For 7 years, I had been the soft, reliable Naomi who put everyone else's needs before her own. I was the one who paid the bills, who smoothed over conflicts, who handed over my hard-earned clients so she could look good in front of the bosses. She wasn't used to me looking at her like she was a stranger. But what about the necklace? Vivian's voice suddenly turned frantic as she touched the diamonds around her neck. Naomi, the installment plan. The first payment of $15,000 is due on Friday, and the rest of the balance has to be cleared within 30 days. I can't afford that. You have to pay it. I have to pay it. I let out a soft, amused chuckle. Vivian, you bought a $188,000 necklace. Why would I pay for it? Because you're my best friend, she cried, her voice cracking. And Greg said you agreed. He said you told him to check it out and that you'd handle it. I told Greg I was exhausted and to check it out himself. I corrected her calmly. I never said I would pay a single cent. I certainly never authorized a $188,000 charge. If you made a purchase you couldn't afford based on an assumption, that's on you, Vivian. Naomi, please. She reached out to grab my hands, but I stepped back, adjusting my watch. I'll be ruined. My credit. I don't have that kind of money. If I don't pay, they'll take it back, and everyone in the office will know. I'll be the laughingstock of the entire firm. Then I suggest you return it, I said, my tone entirely professional. Now, if you'll excuse me, as the new director, I have a transition meeting with Mr. Henderson. I don't want to be late. I turned and walked out of the break room, leaving her standing there, pale, trembling, and utterly trapped in the cage of her own greed. That evening, I drove back to my apartment. The moment I opened the door, a soft, familiar weight brushed against my ankles. Ginger, the orange tabby, looked up at me with his bright green eyes. He let out a low, raspy meow, then hopped onto the kitchen island, sitting down with the dignity of a small king. She tried to call the boy 5 times while you were in your meeting. The cat's inner voice echoed in my mind, dry and slightly bored. The boy is panicking. He's looking up personal loans on his laptop right now, but his credit score is trash because he bought that fancy car he can't afford. He's going to try to use your information tonight. I paused, my hand hovering over the cabinet where I kept Ginger's freeze-dried chicken treats. Use my information? I murmured aloud. He has a sticky note in his desk drawer with your social security number and your mother's maiden name, Ginger's voice continued, his tail flicking lazily. He's trying to apply for a joint loan online. He thinks because you've been together for 7 years, you won't notice a minor dip in your credit profile until it's too late. A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. Greg, the boy who had promised to love me forever, the man I had envisioned a life with, was now actively trying to commit identity fraud against me to save his mistress from a debt they had run up together. Thank you, Ginger, I whispered. I poured a generous handful of the chicken treats onto a small plate and placed it in front of him. He began to eat with delicate, satisfied bites. I immediately sat down at my laptop. I pulled up my credit monitoring services, placed an immediate fraud alert on my social security number, and froze my credit files across all 3 major credit bureaus. Any attempt to open an account, apply for a loan, or run a credit check in my name would now require direct, multi-factor verification to my personal phone. Next, I logged into my bank accounts. I had already transferred the $2.7 million lottery winnings into a private, highly secure trust account under a newly established LLC, but I took the extra step of changing the passwords, security questions, and linked email addresses for all my standard checking and savings accounts. Just as I finished, my phone rang. Greg's caller ID flashed on the screen. I took a slow breath, letting the anger settle into a cold, sharp focus. I answered. Hey, Greg. Naomi. Babe. His voice was frantic, lacking the smooth, soothing tone he usually used to manipulate me. What's going on? Viv called me crying. She said you refused to pay for the necklace? And she said you got the promotion instead of resigning? What happened to our plan? The plan changed, Greg, I said, keeping my voice soft, playing the role of the tired, overwhelmed girlfriend. The workload at the office has been crazy. When Mr. Henderson offered me the director position with a massive raise, I just couldn't say no. We need the money if we're going to buy that house, right? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear him shifting, his mind working furiously to find an angle he could exploit. Well, yeah, of course, babe. I'm proud of you, he said, though his voice sounded strained, almost hollow. But Viv is in a really bad spot. She bought that necklace because she thought you were covering it as a celebration gift. The store won't take it back because she already wore it to work and got a tiny scratch on the clasp. The first payment is 15 grand, Naomi. Can't you just advance her the money? You're the director now. You must have a signing bonus or something. I don't get my new salary until the next pay cycle. I lied smoothly. And my savings are locked up in a fixed-term certificate of deposit for the house down payment. I can't touch them without a massive penalty. Can't you take out a small loan? Greg pressed, his tone growing desperate, almost demanding. Just a quick signature. I can help you set it up. We can do a joint application tonight and… Actually, Greg, my credit is frozen. I interrupted, my voice dripping with sweet regret. There was a security breach at my bank last week, so the credit bureaus locked down my file. I can't apply for any loans or credit cards for the next 3 months. Silence. Dead, heavy silence. I could practically hear the gears in his head grinding to a halt, his desperate backup plan turning to dust before his eyes. Oh, really? He muttered, his voice dropping an octave. That's really inconvenient. I know, it's such a hassle, I sighed. But don't worry about Viv. She's a big girl. I'm sure she can figure out a way to pay for her own luxury items. Anyway, I have to go, Greg. I have to prepare for the big marketing pitch tomorrow. The board is watching me closely. Love you. Yeah, love you too, he mumbled, sounding entirely defeated. I hung up, a cold smile playing on my lips. Ginger let out a soft purr, licking his paw. The boy is going to go to the girl's apartment now. They're going to argue. It will be very loud. Let them argue, I said, shutting my laptop. They deserve every bit of the chaos they created. The next few days passed in a blur of intense preparation. As the newly appointed marketing director, the entire department's eyes were on me. The upcoming product launch was the most critical event of the fiscal year. According to what Ginger had overheard from the office cats, who apparently had a very active network of communication throughout the corporate park, the company was indeed in the final stages of securing a $10 billion funding round from a massive venture capital conglomerate. The success of this launch would be the deciding factor for the investors. If I knocked this out of the park, the executive VP position, complete with a substantial equity stake in the company, would be mine. I spent long hours in my new office, refining the campaign. Following Ginger's tip about the big boss's secret love for pets, I restructured the entire strategy. The product was a high-end smart home integration system. I pivoted the campaign to focus on the smart home for the whole family, specifically highlighting how the system could monitor, comfort, and care for pets when their owners were away. It was warm, emotionally resonant, and highly marketable. Vivian, meanwhile, was falling apart. She arrived at work every day, looking exhausted, her eyes red and puffy. The glittering diamond necklace was conspicuously missing from her neck. She tried to avoid me in the hallways, but whenever our paths crossed, she looked at me with a mixture of intense resentment and desperate pleading. On Thursday afternoon, while I was reviewing the final presentation slides, there was a soft knock on my door. Vivian slipped in, closing the door quietly behind her. Her usual arrogant posture was gone. She looked defeated, her shoulders slouched. "Naomi," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please. I'm begging you. The boutique called me today. They said if the $15,000 isn't paid by tomorrow afternoon, they're going to report the account to a debt collection agency and flag it as a fraudulent purchase because I used a temporary credit line under false pretenses. They might even call the police." I kept my expression neutral, looking up from my screen. "False pretenses? What did you tell them, Vivian?" She swallowed hard, her face flushing crimson. I might have told them that I was your personal assistant and that the purchase was being made on behalf of the new marketing director's corporate account to avoid the immediate credit check. I didn't think it would be a big deal because I thought you'd just pay it. I leaned back in my chair, staring at her. The sheer audacity of her actions was almost breathtaking. She had literally committed corporate impersonation and financial fraud, fully expecting me to quietly cover her tracks out of friendship. "You used my title and the company's name to buy yourself a $188,000 necklace?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "I was going to pay it back," she lied frantically, tears finally spilling over her cheeks. "Greg and I were going to find a way. Naomi, please, you have to help me. If the company finds out, I'll be fired. I might go to jail. We're sisters, Naomi. We grew up together." "Sisters don't steal from each other, Vivian," I said, my voice cold as ice. "And they certainly don't use each other's names to commit fraud." "What do you mean?" she gasped, her eyes widening in fear. "I didn't steal." "Return the necklace, Vivian," I interrupted, standing up. "Go to the boutique, hand it back, and beg them to accept the return even with a scratch. Offer to pay a restocking fee. Use your savings. Sell your car. Do whatever you have to do. But do not bring my name, or this company's name, into your mess again. She stared at me, the desperate pleading in her eyes slowly hardening into a cold, vicious hatred. You've changed, Naomi, she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. You used to be kind. Now you're just a selfish, cold-hearted B***tch. You think you're so high and mighty just because you got this promotion? Just wait. You won't stay at the top forever. Maybe not, I said, holding her gaze without flinching. But at least I'll get there on my own merit. Get out of my office, Vivian. And make sure your reports for the launch are on my desk by 9 tomorrow morning. She slammed the door so hard on her way out that the glass panels rattled. That night, I didn't go straight home. I drove to the luxury riverfront penthouse I had purchased. The interior design team had completed their work, and the space was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the sparkling city skyline and the dark, winding river below. It was quiet, luxurious, and entirely mine. I had paid for it in full, a clean, beautiful start to my new life. When I finally returned to my old apartment to pack up the last of my personal belongings, I found Greg waiting for me by the entrance. He looked disheveled. His expensive leather jacket was unzipped, and there were dark circles under his eyes. When he saw my car pull up, he immediately rushed over, grabbing my shoulders the moment I stepped out. Naomi, where have you been? I've been calling you for hours, he demanded, his voice a mix of anger and desperation. I told you, Greg, I'm busy with the launch, I said, calmly removing his hands from my shoulders. What do you want? We need to talk about Viv, he said, pacing frantically. She's losing her mind. She says you're refusing to help her. Naomi, she's like a sister to you. How can you be so heartless? If she gets arrested, her life is over. I don't recognize you anymore. What happened to the girl who wanted to take care of everyone? The girl who wanted to take care of everyone realized she was being taken advantage of, I said, looking at him calmly. Why are you so worried about her anyway, Greg? You're my boyfriend. Shouldn't you be worried about my career and the stress I'm under with this launch? I am worried about you, he lied quickly, though his eyes darted away nervously. But Viv is a part of our lives. If she goes down, it affects all of us. I actually took out a personal loan to help her cover the first $15,000. But the interest rate is insane, Naomi. I need you to co-sign the loan so the rate drops, and then we can pay it off together over the next year. I stared at him, feeling a sudden, profound sense of pity, not for myself, but for him. He had spent 7 years pretending to love me, pretending to build a future with me, all while harboring a pathetic, desperate obsession with Vivian. And now, he was willingly ruining his own financial future to save her from her own stupidity. I already told you, Greg. My credit is frozen. I can't co-sign anything. Then unfreeze it, he shouted, losing his temper. It takes 5 minutes. Why are you being so difficult? It's just a signature. Do you want to see Viv ruined? Do you want to see our future ruined? Our future. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. Greg, do you really think we have a future? He froze, his expression tightening. What is that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and pulled up the video I had recorded in the parking lot. I pressed play and handed the screen to him. The audio was crystal clear. You worked hard last night, beautiful, Greg's recorded voice murmured from the speaker. Oh, please. I work hard every night. You're like a wild animal, always trying to devour me. Vivian's giggle followed. Once we get married, I'll use her money to pamper you. Greg's face went completely, utterly white. The phone trembled in his hand. He looked up at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, his chest heaving with panic. Naomi, babe, this isn't what it looks like, he stammered, his voice shaking violently. It was a joke. We were just playing around. You know how Viv is, she likes to joke, and We're done, Greg, I said, my voice incredibly calm, devoid of any anger. The anger had burned out long ago, leaving only a cold, pristine clarity. Pack your things and get out of my apartment. If you're not gone by tomorrow morning, I'm calling the police and handing over this video, along with the details of your attempt to access my financial information. Naomi, please. He dropped to his knees, grabbing the hem of my coat. I love you. I've loved you since we were kids. It was a mistake, I swear. Vivian seduced me. She tricked me. I don't care about her. I care about you. Save it for Vivian, I said, pulling my coat away from his grip. You two deserve each other. I walked past him, entering the apartment building and locking the heavy glass doors behind me. I didn't look back. Friday morning arrived, the day of the big marketing pitch. The atmosphere in the executive boardroom was electric. The board members, including Mr. Henderson and several high-profile representatives from the venture capital firm, were seated around the massive mahogany table. I stood at the head of the room, my presentation loaded onto the screen. Vivian was seated at the far end of the table, acting as my assistant for the meeting. She looked like a ghost, her skin sallow, her eyes sunken. She kept staring at her phone under the table, her hands trembling. I knew why. Today was the deadline for the $15,000 payment. If the boutique didn't receive the wire transfer by 5 p.m., they were going to contact the company's legal department regarding the unauthorized use of the corporate name. "Whenever you're ready, Naomi," Mr. Henderson said, offering an encouraging nod. I smiled, stepped forward, and began the pitch. The presentation was a masterclass in modern marketing. I detailed the smart home integration system, but instead of the traditional technical jargon, I focused entirely on the pet-friendly angle. I showed emotional, high-quality video mock-ups of pets interacting with the system, how it played soothing music when they barked, adjusted the temperature when they were warm, and allowed owners to dispense treats remotely. The reaction in the room was immediate. The board members leaned forward, nodding with genuine interest. But as I transitioned to the financial projection slides, the screen suddenly flickered. The presentation slide disappeared, replaced by a glaring, red-lettered document. It was a draft of a marketing proposal, but it wasn't mine. It was a poorly written, highly plagiarized campaign structure that utilized stolen concepts from our main competitor, complete with their trademarked logos clearly visible in the corners. A collective gasp ran through the room. "What is the meaning of this?" Mr. Henderson stood up, his face darkening. "Naomi, is this some kind of joke? Why is our competitor's proprietary material in your presentation?" I didn't panic. In fact, I had been expecting this. Before the meeting, Ginger had warned me. "The sneaky girl went into your office late last night. She used a USB drive to swap your final presentation file with a corrupted one she created. She wants you to look like a thief in front of the big bosses." "Mr. Henderson, please let me explain," I said, keeping my voice calm and professional. "This is not my presentation file. It appears someone has accessed my computer and tampered with the files in an attempt to sabotage this launch." "Sabotage?" One of the board members frowned. "That's a serious accusation, Naomi. Do you have proof?" "Actually, I do," I said. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a separate, secure flash drive, and plugged it into the console. I always keep encrypted offline backup of my work. But more importantly, our IT department installs a digital watermark and a user log on all master files. Let's look at the file history for the corrupted presentation currently on the screen. With a few quick clicks, I pulled up the system log. The screen displayed the exact time the file had been modified, 10:42 p.m. the previous night, and the unique employee ID of a user who had accessed the drive. User ID 88421, Vivian Wright. The room went dead silent. Every eye in the boardroom slowly turned to look at Vivian. She froze, her phone slipping from her hand and clattering onto the floor. Her face went from pale to a ghastly, greenish white. "Vivian," Mr. Henderson said, his voice vibrating with a terrifying, quiet fury. "Would you care to explain why you were accessing the director's files at 10:42 last night and uploading plagiarized competitor material?" I didn't," Vivian stammered, her voice shaking so hard she could barely form words. It's a mistake. Naomi is framing me. She gave me her login info. She told me to upload it. The system logs show the file was uploaded using your unique physical security key, which can only be activated by your personal employee badge," I said softly, looking at her with quiet pity. "And as the director, I have no reason to upload plagiarized material that would ruin my own career." "That's enough, Mr. Henderson snapped, gesturing to the security guards standing near the entrance. "Vivian Wright, you are suspended immediately pending a full investigation into corporate espionage and sabotage. Please escort her off the premises." "No. Naomi, please," Vivian screamed as the two security guards walked over and grabbed her arms. She struggled, her hair falling wild around her face, her carefully constructed facade completely shattering. "You did this to me. You ruined my life. I hate you. I hate you." The heavy mahogany doors closed behind her, cutting off her desperate, hysterical screams. The room was silent for a moment before Mr. Henderson cleared his throat, adjusting his tie. "My apologies to our guests. Naomi, please proceed with your actual presentation." I nodded, loaded the correct file, and completed the pitch. When I finished, the boardroom erupted into a standing ovation. The representatives from the venture capital firm were beaming. "Brilliant," the lead investor said, shaking my hand warmly. "Simply brilliant, Naomi. This is the most creative, commercially viable campaign we've seen in years. With you at the helm, we have absolute confidence in this launch." By Friday evening, the dust had settled. The official announcement went out to the entire company. The $10 billion funding round had been successfully secured, and I had been promoted to Executive VP of Global Marketing with a substantial equity package. As I walked out of the office building for the last time as a regular employee, I saw a police cruiser parked near the entrance. Two officers were speaking with the manager of the luxury boutique and our company's head of security. Vivian was sitting in the back of the cruiser, her hands cuffed, weeping hysterically. She had been unable to pay the $15,000, and once the boutique realized she had used the company's name under false pretenses, they had filed charges for fraud and grand larceny. Combined with the company's impending lawsuit for corporate espionage, her career, her reputation, and her future were completely, irrevocably destroyed. As the cruiser drove away, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the frantic, desperate tone immediately. It was Greg. "Naomi, please. They arrested Vivian. The loan company is coming after my car. I have nothing. Please, I'm begging you, help us. We've known each other since we were kids. You can't do this to us." I stared at the screen for a moment. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt absolutely nothing. I deleted the message, blocked the number, and blocked Vivian's number as well. They were officially ghosts of a past life I had outgrown. An hour later, I unlocked the door to my new riverfront penthouse. The space was warm, quiet, and filled with the scent of fresh wood and luxury. I set my keys on the marble counter and looked toward the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. Ginger was sitting on the wide windowsill, his orange fur glowing in the soft amber light of the setting sun. He looked out over the sparkling river, his tail flicking with a slow, contented rhythm. When he heard me enter, he turned his head, his bright green eyes locking onto mine. "You did well, human," his inner voice echoed in my mind, surprisingly warm and filled with a rare, quiet approval. "The big office is nice. But more importantly, the freeze-dried salmon in the pantry of this place is much better than the chicken." I let out a soft, genuine laugh, the first real, light-hearted laugh I had experienced in years. "Only the best for you, Ginger," I said, walking over and gently scratching him behind the ears. He closed his eyes, letting out a deep, rumbling purr that echoed in the quiet, beautiful space. My love and my friendship had been illusions, but my future was real. It was bright, it was gold, and it was entirely mine to write.